And finally tonight, Paul Revere and Samuel Adams sealed several items in a time capsule more than 2 centuries ago. It was extracted recently from the cornerstone of the Massachusetts statehouse in Boston, and historians eagerly examined the contents. Ben Edwards is a Boston historian who's a relative of Paul Revere by marriage, and he joins us from Boston. Hi, Ben. Welcome to Arise America.
Hello, Debbie. It's good to be with you.
So let's paint a little picture, set a little context. What was going on at the time that Sam Adams and Paul Revere buried this time capsule all the way back in 1795?
Well, basically what they did is the cornerstone for the State House was laid that year, and they wanted to put an engraved silver plate in there with some other items at that time. So this was Boston's first major public building. They wanted to set it aside for history properly, so they wanted to dedicate it in that fashion. It was a pretty major event with some of the main dignitaries from the time, but the most prominent people, the ones we certainly know today, are Paul Revere and Samuel Adams.
And so you talked a little bit about this silver plate, or you mentioned it. Tell us some more about it.
Well, the silver plate was probably the treasure of the whole event, and that was the last thing that came out of the box. And the plate on it actually says, this cornerstone of a building intended for the use of the legislature and executive branches of the government of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was laid by His Excellency Samuel Adams, Esquire, Governor of said Commonwealth, assisted by the most worshipful Paul Revere, Grand Master, and it goes on to mention some other names. And it says the date is July 4th, 1795, being the 20th anniversary of American independence.
20th anniversary. Isn't that incredible? What other notable things were in the capsule?
There were some interesting things. There were actually 5 folded newspapers. Those are basically from the 19th century. Now, I should mention that the time capsule actually did see the light of day 60 years after it was first installed. That was in 1855. There was some work being done on the foundation of the building. It was removed, and items from the 19th century were put in at that time. So the items that were unveiled a couple days ago would be 19th century items and older. So besides the newspapers, there was a paper impression of the Massachusetts Commonwealth seal, the title page for the Massachusetts Colony Records. There were many coins inside, actually about 2 dozen. They varied from half cents to half dimes, 10 and 25-cent pieces. The oldest one was actually a pine tree shilling from 1652.
Wow, amazing.
And a particular favorite of mine was a copper medal of George Washington. And remember now, that was placed in when he was actually still President of the United States.
It's just hard to imagine that. Now, you were careful to mention that this was buried in the cornerstone of the State House building. What was significant about that?
Well, I just think that was the first stone that was laid for the structure of the building, and putting it in place, and that they just wanted to put in something from that time period to leave in, so for people from subsequent generations to get a chance to perhaps locate someday. And it was really located really by mistake because of foundation work being done on the building, but lucky that they did locate it.
Indeed. So then it was found almost by accident. Am I hearing you correctly?
Originally it was found by accident, and at that time there was some press coverage in some magazines and various things mentioning a couple things that were inside, and also one of those just newspapers from the day from roughly 1855, but just bits and pieces. We weren't 100% sure until it was unveiled a couple days ago exactly what was inside.
Mm-hmm. And what's going to be done with these items?
Well, it looks like they're, from the latest accounts I get from the Museum of Fine Arts, that's, by the way, where the time capsule was unveiled. They haven't announced it, but they are set to put them on display to the general public for a time. And then after that, it looks like they're going to package them back up, probably in a better container, possibly with some more modern-day items, and reinsert them back into the cornerstone. And hopefully future generations, hundreds of years from now, will have the same opportunity we had just the other day.
Man, can you speculate, Ben, on the value of these items?
Well, it's interesting. I would say, the pine tree shilling, there was a gentleman there who was saying, depending on condition, upwards of like $70,000, but that seemed a bit high to me. But if you take a look at, it's not just the coin, but it's the fact that the history attached to it, especially the fact that Washington medal, there are copies of it around. It's felt to be one that was designed in England, actually in 1794, so there are others. But this particular one is the only one that was placed in that time capsule when Washington actually was president. So that makes it even more valuable, adds maybe 10 times to the value.
Yeah, no matter what the value is, it's just stinking cool. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
And we should also mention that you are a relative of Paul Revere by marriage. So you
yes, I actually had a chance. My connection is one through marriage. I'm connected to Paul Revere Jr., who was a silversmith, firstborn son of Patriot Paul Revere.
That's fantastic.
And his wife was my relative, Sally Edwards.
Thank you, Ben. Nice to talk to you. And thank you for joining us. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.